Okay, everyone. I want to thank y'all for coming out. My name is Luke. I am the events and recruitment specialist here at the college. Sorry about the change of venue. We just had some technical issues, had to move over here. But it's a quick announcement before we get started. We do have sign-in sheets for extra credit. If your professor sent you an email, come for extra credit. It does ask y'all to list the time and the professor. Otherwise, I don't know which class you're in. So make sure y'all fill that out on the way out. Um, we're going to go ahead and get started. This is Norma. She is a my brain's died. I'm sorry.
I can tell you what I tell
Thank you.
people. I change air filters for a living, just so that they won't ask me what I do. But I am a forensic interviewer. I am a forensic interview coordinator slash bilingual forensic interviewer. Um, Luke, do you have any other announcements? Okay, we'll get started. It's okay. So, does anyone here know what a forensic interviewer is? Okay, this will be fun. So, I work for Children's Safe Harbor. Does anyone know who Children's Safe Harbor is? Would you like to help me out? You looked familiar. So she just started volunteering there last week. Speaking of, um, and I'll talk about that in a moment. I do have a sign-in sheet. If everyone could just sign in, and then I'll have Ashley, who is also a forensic interviewer here, to pick this up for me. Just sign in with your name. I think it's asking for a name, a phone number. I don't think you have to put your phone number. If you could put your email, put a star next to your name if you're interested in volunteering. Okay, so I work for Children's Advocacy Center. Maybe you've never heard of Children's Safe Harbor, but has someone here ever heard of a Children's Advocacy Center? Okay, this should be really fun. So, again, my name is Norma Carmona. I have two of my partners with me. I have Ashley Gonzalez. She's also a forensic interviewer. She's been interviewing for almost 3 years. Yeah, 3 years in February. Yeah. And then Caitlin, who is a long time partner, she is a detective with Conroe Police Department. And she's been a detective for 4 years. So we've gotten to know each other very well. These past 4 years, worked very close with Caitlin and Conroe PD. So, Children's Advocacy Center, we serve victims, not just victims, but witnesses or any child that has had any type of involvement in a type of case, whether it's with DFPS. Does someone know who DFPS here is? The Department of Family Protective Services, so CPS, or if or any kind of law enforcement case. So we are the agency who DFPS or law enforcement refers the children to that are involved in those cases. The one that we have here in Walker County is called Children's Safe Harbor. There are 72 or 71 children advocacy centers across the state of Texas. The state of Texas, each county should have a children's advocacy center that serves for that county. So wherever you live, wherever you're from, wherever your family's from, there is a children's advocacy center there. So they're the ones that are helping those agencies with any type of criminal cases. The one here in Walker County is called Children's Safe Harbor. We offer services to Walker County, Montgomery County, and San Jacinto County. So that's south and east. There is one north and south. There's one in Houston. The Children's Assessment Center. Does anyone familiar with that one? Okay. That's one of the biggest centers, and they serve all of Houston area. And then north of us, I believe we have Madisonville, who is serves by the Bryan College Station. Their center serves them. So all around us, we have one, right? Why would it be important for someone or for any agency, law enforcement, to have a children's advocacy center? Yes. So who else would advocate for them? Right. So with that being said, I'm going to get into the services that we provide as an advocacy center. So as for Children's Safe Harbor and any children's advocacy center, there are victim advocates. So the victim advocates are the people who welcome the children in at our center. That's what we have. They welcome the children in. They have the families check in. They make sure that no perpetrator is in our building, that the people that are coming in are the caregivers and the children that are to be seen. So we check them in. They make sure that they're okay. We then have the forensic interviewers. So we have the forensic interviewing as a service, and then family advocacy as a service. So we had family advocates who meet with the parents while the children forensic interviewer meet with the children. Yeah. And then we also, not only do we serve them in that way, but we serve by having a SANE exam. Does anyone know what a SANE exam is? A SANE nurse. Okay, yeah. So we have SANE nurses there at Children's Safe Harbor. Every children's advocacy center has that service of SANE exams. And then we also serve with counseling. So one day, I think we could have all those services come in and we can do a panel with everyone. That would actually be really cool. But today, I'm here to talk to you about forensic interviewing, which is what I do. I have been a forensic interviewer for 10 plus years. Um, actually, I've been interviewing here with Children's Safe Harbor for 8 years, 7 years, going on 8 years. And before this, I was in a small town named Crockett. Does anyone know what that? What yes, yeah. So it's like northeast of here. It's very small. So I was there at the Kalen Center. That's the center that they have there. And I was at Kalen Center for 3 years and then moved to Conroe and came to Children's Safe Harbor. And I've been there since. And I call Children's Safe Harbor my home, although it wasn't the first place that I've ever been to. So, I mean, that I ever interviewed in. So part of forensic interviewing, could anyone tell me what a forensic interview is? Can anyone guess what a forensic interview is? Yes. Conducting questions in a trauma-informed way. Okay. Anyone else? Yes. Okay. So it's recorded to use in court. And you said that it's so that they could use it for, oh, in a court case. Not biased. Yeah. So it's a non-biased interview. Um, it is an interview conducted by a forensic interviewer of a child in a non-biased, non-leading way, allowing a child to tell what has happened to them, they've witnessed, what they know, what has happened to them in their own words and in their own way. Um, I have conducted 3,586 interviews. We looked at the number before we came here. Um, and so all those interviews are conducted in this non-leading, open-ended way. So allowing a child to tell me what they needed to tell me in their own words. Now, with forensic interviewing, there's lots of training that comes along with that. So we are overseen by CAC Texas, the Children's Advocacy Centers of Texas, and every interviewer has to go to a specialized training for this. So it's what we call blocks. So you go to block 1, block 2, block 3. Our first block of training is over just a semi-structured narrative process, which is the process that is used for someone to conduct an interview. And there are 5 steps to that interview, right? So we have to learn about the preparation phrase, which preparation in this case would mean, and forensic interviewing means that we are preparing for the child that we're going to see. Now, that child either could be they are special needs, they are a small child. We do conduct interviews at Children's Safe Harbor from the age of 2 till the age of 17. And then we also conduct interviews for any adults with disabilities. So it's not just children, we're conducting these interviews for adults with disabilities. Um, and we're allowing them to also receive the services that they need, as sometimes they function as a child age. So in this, we do the preparation. So we prepare our rooms. We prepare by reading any reports that we received of the case that we're to see. We also prepare by talking to the people or whoever has referred the case. So earlier, I talked about the partners and how we see these cases. So who are the people that you think refer the cases to Children's Safe Harbor or to an advocacy center? Yes. Yeah, so they would call in, and who would they call in for if the school calls in a report, if the school calls in a report because the child has bruises, who would they call that into? Yes. The police or CPS. Yes. So children's advocacy centers can only receive referrals from the police, from law enforcement or CPS. Those are who we serve and who our partners in this case would be. And we function on a multidisciplinary team. So our multidisciplinary team is made up of law enforcement, of DFPS, of the district attorneys that serve in our counties, and the Children's Advocacy Center. So we talk to them, whoever has referred that case, we prepare by talking to them. Any additional information that they have received, maybe from the time they scheduled it until the time that we have that interview, is what we talk about and discuss. I did want to mention this. If you guys have any questions as I'm talking, please feel free to ask any questions, okay? Um, so then we prepare, we talk about it. Our family advocate is also there with us, right? Our victim advocate is out in the lobby making sure that the kid and the family is okay, that they don't need anything, and the family advocate is there with us as well. A family advocate is someone who serves for the family. They give resources to the caregiver who is going to be there. They also do follow-ups afterwards. But as we're talking in preparation for this interview, they are gathering the information about the family so that they can have the services that that family is going to need as they're talking to them while the forensic interview is going on. So after we prepare, we meet the child. Um, I will tell you guys that not every time is it stars and rainbows and good times, and you go out there and you say, "Hey, my name's Norma Carmona, and my job is to talk to you today." Some days we get kids that tell us that they don't want to talk to us. Some days we get parents that say, "I want to be in the interview room with you." And it's our job to let them know that a forensic interview is just between the interviewer and the child. And we allow that child to let them know that this is their interview, that, it's important for them to come back with us because, like she said earlier, it is a recorded interview. So, not always is it stars and rainbows. Yes, go ahead. So the children not cooperating? Yeah. So I can go through that. I'm going to put a pin in it, okay? And then you'll understand um, a little bit of what happens, okay? So, um, so yeah. So sometimes they do that. They do end up coming back, even though they don't want to be there. As we're going with them, the family advocate is taking the caregiver back to their office and talk to them about the services. Now, the next step is introduction. So we go in, we introduce ourselves. I have the child introduce themselves. I also want to build rapport with this kid. Why would it be important for me as an interviewer who's never met this child to build rapport with them? To get them comfortable talking to me? Okay. Yeah. Anything else? to trust me. Yeah. And also, and that is true. It also is important so that while part of this introduction phase is because I want to practice and ask them about something, a narrative practice that they can tell me from beginning to the end. So I can see the way that I need to ask my questions. It allows them to see the way that I'm going to ask my questions and I can see how they can answer. It also is important in some cases to assess a child. So we do see kids with disabilities. We see kids, little kids, very, very little kids. So I want to know, is this kid going to understand my questions? Is this kid able, is this baby? Because sometimes we see 2-year-olds, right? They're babies. Is this baby going to be able to tell me to talk to me at all? Or are they going to be able to tell me their colors? Um, and are they going to understand what I'm asking in the way that I'm asking? So it allows me to assess them. After that, we go over something called it's the rules. But really, I don't like to call it the rules because it's not really rules. It's really just telling a child, this is your interview. And if I say something wrong, I want you to correct me. If I use words that you don't understand, just tell me you don't understand me. I can ask in a better way. And then I also tell them um, that if there's something that I asked you and you don't know the answer to, just tell me that you don't know so you don't have to guess. So it allows me as the interviewer to give them this interview. This is their interview. And then we go over something called a true lie oath. Would anyone know what that sounds like? So, a true lie oath is I need a child to give me the definition of what a truth is, what a lie is. We go over what a definition, over examples of what a truth is and what of a lie. Many times it sounds just as silly as the one I use every day. If I say this wall is the color pink, would that be a truth or would that be a lie? Many kids the walls are blue actually in our office. So many kids can differentiate pink from blue. So it allows me to see are they able to tell me what a truth is and what a lie is by using an example. And then we ask them about a consequence. So what happens if someone tells a lie? And many kids would say, you get in trouble. Yeah. So it allows me to know that they know there is a consequence to a lie. And then I ask them, do you promise to tell me the truth? And I have kids tell me no. But that's okay. We just move on. So then I ask them, tell me why you're there today. Do you think every kid that comes knows why they're there? No. Yeah. So no, they don't. So it is my job as an interviewer to ask open-ended questions regarding their safety, regarding any of the allegations, regarding the perpetrators who these allegations are against, regarding the family, regarding the reason that they're there, so that I can get to tell me why you're here today. Now, in some cases, a lot of our cases, if something has happened before they got there, if they saw someone get arrested, if they told someone and now that person that they told is there with them, they do know why they're there. So they'll tell me why you're, I'll say, tell me why you're here today. I'm here because my dad touched me. Would that be enough for a prosecutor? No. Because telling me that your dad touched me, what could that mean? It could be what? Yeah, it could range from the give me a hug to something inappropriate. So, as an interviewer, we have to figure out how to ask these questions without being um, direct. Tell me all about the way that your dad touched you. And tell me, has it happened one time or more than one time? So, that's called gathering details. So we gather details by asking those open-ended questions, going through a narrative, using what I used before, right? In that rapport building of a narrative. Tell me what you did from beginning to the end. I use it again. Tell me what happened in your abuse from beginning to the end. Getting them to give me all the details. I have law enforcement here. Well, thank you for coming. Why would it be important for her to understand, as law enforcement, to understand the details of sensory details, of descriptions of a room, of the way that it felt, what they were seeing, what they were hearing. Why would that be important for law enforcement to have all of those things? Yeah. So sometimes in some cases they can gather physical evidence, right? So this happened. This is just an example. So this happened last night on my bed. The sheets were pink. There was a Hello Kitty blanket and there was a pink pillow. What do you think law enforcement's going to do with that information that I gathered from the interview? Take the bedding. What else? Take pictures of the crime scene. They can go see for themselves. Is there a pink sheet on that bed? Right? So there's a lot of information that can come from a forensic interview. And again, this isn't an interviewer asking direct questions, it's open-ended questions. Tell me all about your bed. Yes, go ahead. Because in this case, and when you do forensic interviews, it's important to not be direct because you want what happened to come from their words, not me directly asking, did your dad touch you? Your dad touched you, right? Your dad touched you with his hand, right? So when I'm asking, tell me all about your dad touching. It allows a kid to say, well, my dad touched me on my, where did your dad touch you? So I take that where and you turn it into, okay, so he touched you on your vagina. Are we big kids here? Okay, I can say that word. Got it. He touched you on your vagina. Tell me all about your dad touching you on your vagina. He touched me with his fingers. Tell me about everything that his fingers did to your vagina. So then it allows and it gives a story. Well, what happened to law enforcement? And we're not just imagining or thinking that that's the way he touched him. We know because it came from the child's words, not me asking directly. And this is just an example. And later on, I'm going to go through some cases that we've seen um, of different types and I'll talk about that in a bit, about different types of cases that we see, because we don't just see sexual abuse cases. Now, after we gather those details, yes. How do we bring it up to them? Well, we do our best to not bring it up to them, right? Because it's their interview. Um, what we don't want to do is make a child a liar, right? They promised to tell me the truth. I, in a sense, have promised to also tell the truth as an interviewer. I do say that a lot, actually. Tell them, you promised to tell me the truth. I also tell the truth in this room. Um, and we talk about true things. That's something that I use in our interviews. So we don't ever want to make them a liar. But there are in some cases where they do report to a professional reporter, right? So it's reported, it's in a report to law enforcement, it's in a DFPS report. I have an understanding that you told the nurse that your dad touched you. Tell me all about that. And where does it leave it at again? In the kid's words. Now, a kid can say, nope, those things have never happened. I lied. I've never said that. Again, it's not my job to interrogate that kid. It's just my job to ask the questions. And if that kid says no, nothing's ever happened, then I have to say, take the kid's word. And again, I'll talk about that in a moment because that's actually one of the topics. So after I finish the interview, I step out. Again, I have a team who's there, who's watching live because, oh, I forgot to mention we have cameras. There's cameras in the interview room that I do have to introduce to the kids, right? So they're watching it live. The team is watching it live, whoever referred it, whether it was law enforcement or CPS, and sometimes they refer it together. Both of them are there. I go out there, ask them, are there any questions that you need me to ask? Is there any other information that you would like for me to gather? And a lot of the times it's detail gathering questions. It's something that the kid said that I might have missed They are your team. They're my team. So they're also watching this interview as I'm listening to it or talking in it. So anything that I've missed, they're trying to catch so that we can gather everything that we need from this child because it's being recorded. I'm going to go back to what you said about it being recorded for court. It actually is recorded because there are two agencies sitting in the room watching live. If there was no recording, then that child would need two separate interviews. And why would we put a child through two different interviews when we can put them through one? And that agency is sitting there watching, and anything that needs to be asked could be asked in a child-friendly place where the purpose is to serve children and their families. So I step out, I come back, and then I conclude the interview. And we conclude it with something neutral, something that maybe they talked about. They may have told me they started soccer. So my question to conclude it is, oh, when's your first soccer game? Tell me all about it. Leaving what we talked about behind. And I think you said something like there was somebody who asked, what happens if a child doesn't want to talk about it and leaves? Something that I've told kids as an interviewer, if they have told multiple people and then they denied me, or if there's ever something that I asked you about that you didn't want to talk about, if there's something that you've never told someone and you're not ready to talk about it now, you can come back and talk to me. Or you can tell someone and let them know that you can come back and talk about it. So it leaves a door open. I didn't say, oh, I know you told 3 other people. You're just not ready to tell me. But it allows a child to tell me what it is that, it allows a child to come back in case there is another time that they would like to come and talk about. And then from there on, the video is shared with the agencies who referred the case. Now, that is the process of forensic interviewing. We get trained on that. Every interviewer has to go through that training. We get extensive training on other things like not just sexual abuse, but physical abuse, witnessing to any violent crime, because those are the types of interviews we do. Neglectful supervision, drugs, alcohol. So we don't just do sexual abuse interviews. We do any type of crime that a child was involved in. So if there was witnesses to murders, we do those interviews. If there was a physical abuse case where there was extensive abuse or just any type of abuse, we do those cases. And we also conduct interviews for their siblings, whether it was a child, it might have been the child who was physically abused or sexually abused, but we also conduct those interviews for their siblings. Why would it be important for us to conduct the interviews of the siblings of the victim? Yes. Because there's possible missing details. Yeah. Yes. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to tell you all about something. So when I first started in 2017, the law had just changed for DFPS. So in the state of Texas, the Department of Family Protective Services was only interviewing or conducting interviews for the child that is the victim. In 2017, a long, 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 long time ago, um, that that law changed. So they were having us conduct interviews for the siblings. For any sexual abuse case, every sibling needed to be interviewed on sexual abuse. When that happened, and this case, I remember it because it was the very first case that I did after this. I had a child who had 5 other siblings. So there were 6 of them. They were only there for that one child. We ended up putting them on the calendar because we had to. No, actually, we didn't end up putting. We only put 2 other ones on the calendar and didn't put the other 3. When I got into that interview, I interviewed the victim I interviewed the sister who also disclosed to sexual abuse. I interviewed her sister who disclosed to sexual abuse, and she then disclosed to her other sister also being sexually abused. So, yes. So, it is important to interview those other kids because maybe they aren't ready to disclose, but that one victim, it may not just be one victim in that home. Many times, if there was one victim, there's either one that's being groomed to be the victim, another victim, or there's one that had already been a victim before. Any other reason that we would want to interview those siblings? Witnessing, corroboration information. So maybe the child that I'm interviewing isn't able to give me um, the details or a timeline of events. So I'm not sure when was the last time that that family saw Uncle Johnny, because the kid is 4 years old and they're not able to tell me what day or week it was or what was going on that week. But I have a 10-year-old who told me it was spring break. We were on spring break and Uncle Johnny came to visit us and he's never been to my house besides on spring break. So it corroborates the information that another child wasn't able to give me. So it's important to interview those witnesses as well. It also um, it also helps with just the dynamic of the family, letting us know what that relationship was like, maybe with that perpetrator and that kid, and that other in someone else's eyes. Any other reason? Am I missing? Okay. All right. Um, so another, uh, I lost my train of thought. So another reason that, so we interviewed the siblings, but I kind of wanted to go back. I think you mentioned which is kind of hitting on the same topic of interviewing for the kids that, what am I saying? Disclosure. So something that we learn or that we go through with forensic interviewing is the process of disclosure. So disclosure is a process, and there is denial when it comes to disclosure. There's tentative, there's active disclosure, there's recant, and there's reaffirmation. Can anyone tell me what denial is? Yes. You don't want to talk about it. You don't want to believe that happened. Okay? Yeah. So you're not talking about it. You're denying every bit of the abuse. That child is saying, those things have never happened to me. I don't even know an Uncle Johnny. I have no clue. He's never been in my house. Nothing. And then there's tentative. Does someone know what tentative means, or a tentative disclosure, what it would mean? Yes. Yeah. Somewhere in the middle. So not completely saying it happened, but then not saying that it didn't happen. Yes. Many times tentative can look like, well, I heard a story about a girl that might be me, maybe it's not, that got abused by her uncle. That could be tentative. Um, it could be, well, he only touched me over the clothes, when she's already told a nurse or someone else that it actually happened a different way, under the clothes. So that could be tentative. Maybe they weren't ready to tell me as an interviewer, they were in tentative stage. Um, and then there's active disclosure. Could someone tell me what an active disclosure would be? Yes. Yes, willing to explain what happened. These interviews look like tell me why you're here today. I'm here because my dad touched me. Tell me everything that happened when your dad touched you from beginning to the end. And they're able to tell me everything in detail. And there's a recant. Could someone tell me what a recant means? A recant interview would look like? Yeah. Yes. Yes. So they said it happened and then they take their statement back. Exactly. That's exactly what a recant statement is. Or a recant interview is. And then what would and why would a kid recant? Fear, shame, anything else? Yes. They don't want the person to get in trouble. This side of the room? Anyone? So an outside source or their parents? Yeah, threaten them. Yeah. So all of those are reasons that a child would recant. So barriers being created for that child to go and reaffirm or say that those things happen. And what is a reaffirmation interview? Confirms what happened. Yeah. So a child can be inactive, go to recant, and then reaffirm that in fact those things did happen. And many times when we have those kind of when we have a recant interview, a lot of times it turns into a reaffirmation. And then we ask them, "Tell me how come you said that it didn't happen? And did those things happen?" And they'll say, "Yes, they happened, but I said that because someone threatened me. I was scared. My dad went to jail and we can't pay the bills." So many times those kids do actually reaffirm um, their what they said and what they came in to talk about. Many whenever kids come in, and we talked about recant, we talked about barriers. Or I mentioned the word barriers. What are some other barriers that a kid could have as they're coming into a forensic interview? Yes, disabilities. Yeah. Okay. Yes. That actually could be a barrier. A language barrier. Yes, in some cases, it could be a barrier. We do hire master words. So although I'm a bilingual forensic interviewer, if actually we have had a few sign language interviews where that could be a barrier. But thankfully, we've sat in with interpreters. But I saw your hand raised. Sign language, yeah. Okay, yeah. So being confused on what's okay and what's not, thinking that it's normal. They may sometimes block out trauma so they don't fully remember. Yeah, that could be a barrier. Anyone else? Okay. So barriers and we do our best to as interviewers, we do our best to kind of go through those barriers, talk about them in the interview. Many times we do ask a kid or every time we do ask a kid at the end of the interview, did someone tell you what to tell me in here today? Did someone tell you to not tell me something in here today? That way it lets us put in the child so that the child can tell us. And then we say, well, tell me about what they said to not talk about, and sometimes they actually do end up talking about why they're there. Um, so that's just I just looked at the time, but that is just a little bit of forensic interviewing. Um, at the center that I'm at right now, we have 6 full-time forensic interviewers. Our program director, Carrie Prahota, is also an interviewer as well, but she's the program director. So technically, there's 7 of us. We have 3 rooms at our center, 4 rooms at our center, and a lot of times they're running at the same time. And again, we see all types of abuse. Does anyone have any questions about any of the forensic interviewing part or any of the cases that we see or any curiosity? Yes. So I have a degree from here, from Sam Houston State University. Ashley has one as well. I think we're all Bearcats. Oh, Selena. Except Selena, yeah. So maybe no, more mostly are Bearcats. But we all have bachelor's degrees of criminal justice for our center. There are some centers that do require for you to have a master's degree. Our center is not one of them. But I believe in like Harris County, Houston, CAC, they require a master's degree. Yes, absolutely. And that's called vicarious trauma. That's a study for a different day. Actually, that wouldn't be really bad. I mean, that would actually be really good. But yes, they do. Um, there are things you see the world differently, if I'm being honest. Um, I have a child. I didn't when I first started. When I first started, I had no children at all, no ties to children. I have two. I have a stepdaughter and a 5-year-old, and they've definitely impacted the way I see everything that they do. Um, but I've learned to not let it affect me. I've learned to that life still goes on, and those are the cases that I see at work, and my personal life is my life. But yes, you're welcome. Yes. It, if some cases get reported, so they fall through the cracks and they still end up dying in some cases. I will tell you that part of the reason that we have the multidisciplinary team, which is what I said, that we work in a system with law enforcement and CPS together very closely. We have case review at our center, and every children's advocacy center should be has this, where we go through those cases of the kids that have been reported. In 2007, I believe there was a case out of Austin, Texas, where a child definitely fell through the cracks. There was multiple reports through law enforcement, through CPS, and they were not talking to each other. They weren't communicating. So they were doing over here, law enforcement, and CPS was coming over here, right? And they weren't communicating. And he ended up passing away. And it was because of him that we've developed an amazing relationship. I can call Caitlin on her personal cell phone and say, hey, I have this case. What do I do with it? How can you help me? I can call Mary Nichols, who's our director in our director there at our stationed or co-located there in our center, and she can tell me, and she works with DFPS, and I can talk to her about a case. We staff these cases to the best of our ability. Children's Safe Harbor is actually one of the best, one has one of the best MDT programs in Texas or out of the CACs. We've been told that. Um, we will continue to do that because we don't want a kid to fall through the cracks. But many times it's because of that, because of miscommunication, um, because teams don't work well together. And unfortunately, that is the truth, and it does happen. Yes. So it's not exclusive to just children. There are adult forensic interviewers that I don't know if you've ever heard of Texas F&E, but they are say sexual assault. They conduct the sexual assault exams for us. They also have adult forensic interviewers, which is structured the same way we do. So it's open ended, allowing them to say what they need to say in their own words for adults. No. So we only conduct interviews for victims, either victims, witnesses, or anyone who was affected or part of a case where the child was involved. And sometimes even just for cooperating the police. No, seriously. The law enforcement, they're the ones that conduct those interviews. And I will tell you, although it might be a juvenile that conducted cr- that did a crime, right? So law enforcement conducts those interviews for them. Their interviews are a lot different than ours because they could be direct with them, right? They can ask them, "Did you do this? I know you did." Blah blah blah. Now, if a child is in that interview with them and they say, "Well, I did it because my uncle Johnny made me do this to him when I was 5." They stop that interview and they bring that child to us. so that we can then interview him. But we do not talk about why they were talking to the police about. Yes. Thank you for reminding me. Good question. Yes. So part of what we do as forensic interviewers is so we conduct these interviews, right, for this case, and it is our job most of the time, many of the times, we are the first person that they talk to in detail about the things that have happened from beginning to the end with everything that happened. So many of times we are the ones that are going to court and being what is called an outcry witness for them. Um, an outcry witness is the person who the child first talked to about the incident in detail. It reads just like that. So it's our job to go in and talk about what happened, what that child said in the interview from beginning to the end. We are also expert witnesses. So everything that I talk to you guys about here is what we go and talk about. Not everything like the way I did today, but we go and testify on what our job is, how we are educated, what we do, how to conduct an interview, so that the jury can understand what that interview was like for that child. Um, what do we do? So we want to have every child come through Children's Safe Harbor. Maybe they're not able to communicate in the forensic interview, but we do our best. So there are different methods of communication. One of the last ones that I did, it was actually using a tablet, where a child brought in their tablet, um, and we tried to do the forensic interview with him. Many times people say, "Oh, the child's nonverbal." I've had an interview with a child that was nonverbal that I showed him pictures, because we do show evidence of pictures of whether it was of the crime, or even sometimes a scene, or sometimes a bruise, a broken arm, things like that, where I showed a child a picture and they turned around and they said their mom. And it was telling, although it wasn't a disclosure, but it was telling, right? And it allowed law enforcement to just move forward in that case, because there's some type of suspicion there now. So they were able to move forward. So we do our best to try, even though they don't communicate, or they say they don't communicate, and then they end up do communicating. Hold on, I'm trying to ask. Yeah. Oh wait, I have someone back there who hasn't asked. Yes. So besides the college degree, it's the block training that I was talking about that just kind of teaches you the structured narrative process, which is what we go through. That's what CAC Texas. Um, we do 3 blocks of not just the structured narrative, but also the other types of abuse, how to ask those questions beyond the sexual abuse, like asking those witnessing question, preparing for court. And then we also do peer reviews. So at our center, we try to do monthly peer review with all the interviewers, going through the interviews that we've conducted, giving feedback, reading an article in regards to forensic interviews to um, get more education. Okay, one more. I'm trying to find someone who hasn't asked a question. Yes. I believe there are some trainings out there. I really don't know. Honestly, don't know the answer to that. I did have someone tell me that they can pay for a training, but I didn't look into that. But many times it starts off with being hired, and you go to CAC Texas to get trained. And then you had a question. So the way that we do our cases is it's not necessarily we take the case and we keep the case. When we say we're neutral and that we do this interview and then we move on to the next interview. So we technically don't keep the case. Now, CPS, that's different, right? That case stays on their caseload. Law enforcement, that's different. That case stays on their caseload. But for us, we do a different interview for different case every day. Yes. So he would come to us. Yeah. So that is a case that we would have law enforcement refer to us so that we can conduct that interview for him. Okay. So I do want to share a couple of more slides. You are more than welcome to come and ask me and Ashley and Caitlin questions. I don't know if I missed anything. Y'all want to add anything? Okay. Um, so I do want to go ahead and move on. And I have some cards here. Um, Follow us on social media. We're real. So follow us on social media. And this is a QR code for volunteering. We're always looking for volunteers. We have one in the room. Thank you. So please, we're also do internships. If you contact this number, the volunteer number, they will get you to the person. And her name is Lakeisha, but Hannah is who does all of our volunteer work. And so if you guys, we would love, love, love to have volunteers come and sit with the kids, sit in the lobby, play with the kids, refresh our snacks. Yes. Yeah, so they help with the kids that are in the lobby. Sometimes we have a room full of kids and we need lots of volunteers. But then they also help restack our snacks, organize a few things that we need, just little things that sometimes we can't get to. But then it allows you to meet the interviewers and the people in the building and get more familiar. So if you, I have cards here and flyers. Hannah Waltrip, she's our volunteer person. She's the one over volunteering. But that would be a good question for her because I don't have the answer to that. Okay, thank you. So these are just a few cases that we've looked into. I've got a few minutes. So this is Colin Sweeney. This is a case out of Walker County. This actually moved from Montgomery County to Walker County. He solicited his son on a profile from sugar daddies, silver daddies, men soliciting men and daddies, I guess. And he wanted someone to come meet with him because he had a sweet old 4-year-old boy. And Colin Sweeney, they found him at his trailer house. They thought he was in Montgomery. Montgomery County helped coordinate with Walker County, with Huntsville PD. And then Walker County coordinated with Huntsville PD. And Huntsville PD went out and found Colin Sweeney getting home with his 4-year-old boy. He was a sweet little redhead. And they picked him up. Law enforcement and CPS were both there. They coordinated to meet there together, and they brought him to the center. And this sweet baby boy came in. He was everywhere. He was running everywhere, and we got into the interview room. And I do want to give a warning here. We use anatomical drawings sometimes when a kid isn't able to describe us what parts of their body are called. So in this case, we used an anatomical drawing, and I pointed to what is called um, a butt. And he told me that his dad put his penis in his butt, and that's what that butt was used for. Colin Sweeney was sentenced to 42 years in jail. I want to tell y'all that 4-year-old boy is now adopted. He is happy. He's 7 years old now. He lives a very, very happy, happy life. And I just saw a picture of him in Christmas, and it was sweet. This is Derek Cobbs. Derek Cobbs was sentenced to life in prison. He was sentenced to life in prison because his stepdaughter came into Children's Safe Harbor and disclosed to one of our sweet interviewers that he had been having her rub her feet on his penis. Gave a full detail encounter of how it happened in their home, details from beginning to the end. And he was sentenced to life for having feet touch his penis. So that's just another one of the cases that we see. Anything else that I'm missing for that case? No? And Ashley actually used to be Conroe PD, so she actually arrested Derek. This was before Ashley became a forensic interviewer. Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank on his name. This guy. This guy. He got arrested in San Jacinto, and I got a case from each one of our counties that we serve. He actually is in prison now, because for life, because sometime in 1992 he sexually assaulted someone, so he went to prison. In 2023, this girl was walking down the road. She was running away from home, and she got picked up by a stranger. She was, I don't know how, but she was going from Conroe to Shepherd, something like that. And she was walking. A man picked her up. He stopped at a convenience store or gas station, uh, got them two tall boys, one for her, one for him. When he realized that she was getting intoxicated, he stopped the truck that he was in, sexually assaulted her, went and dropped her off at a McDonald's. It was a mystery on who this man was. She had no clue who he was. She had never met him. She gave a good description of where he might be from, what he does for work. Very, very good details, but they couldn't. He was an unknown. When they ran his DNA through CODIS, because she still had DNA with her after she went to the scene exam. Does anyone know what CODIS means or what it is? Yes. Yes, so it's the database for DNA. They ran it, and months later, they found this guy. So he decided that he wanted to go to trial. Well, he got life in prison because there's nothing else you can get in the state of Texas after you become a sex offender and you go to trial and you get found guilty. So these are just a few of the cases that we see. We see many, many, many kinds of cases. I will tell y'all, just to finish out, I have 2 more minutes left. Forensic interviewing, I could talk about it all day, every day. I love it. It is a gift to be able to talk to a child and have a child tell me something that has happened to them horrific that they may have never told someone or anyone in their life, from beginning to the end in detail. So it is probably, I want to say it's the coolest job anyone could ever have, although it is a little dark sometimes. But it is a gift to be able to receive that from a child and have them leave the office with the weight off their shoulder. I'm gonna put, oh, snack drive. They told me to tell you guys about this. I mean, if you guys are in a sorority, any type of organization, and y'all want to donate some snacks, we always have a snack drive. Please feel free to, put that out there. Your sororities, I know you guys need to donate and to do some fundraisers. We love snacks, and it goes to our team members and sometimes us. It's for the children. This is for the kids. Oh yeah, this one's for the kids. Yeah. Um, and then just follow us on social media. Okay. I will be down here for a few more minutes, and if you guys want to come down and chat. But thank you guys for coming here and listening to me ramble, and y'all have a great night.